So I don't know if you've seen, but we had a recent post on our website,
Yeah, there's a lot
and
of engagement.
we had a lot of engagement, to say the least. So one of our writers, Cynthia Vinny, I hope I'm saying that right. She wrote an article, opinion piece, asking the question, posing the question: is on-screen diversity in danger of becoming a gimmick? And we promoted it all over Facebook, and as you might expect, it was heavily engaged with and opinionated on, to say the least. And people had some really strong feelings about it. And I kind of just want to go into that a little bit more
Yeah,
and, you know, see what your thoughts are on it,
yeah. I mean, that's
on the
such an
topic.
interesting question to pose. You know,
It is.
just thinking about it, and especially in our time now, where there's more platforms than ever, and like there's more, you know, remakes happening and all these things. It's like I don't know. I feel like diversity has always been used sometimes in a gimmicky way,
Hmm.
but it's
Just to
not.
reach a different crowd.
Yeah, like it's just strategic marketing, like target marketing. Like oh, we want to drive this type of consumer in.
Hey,
We already
there's
got these
that black
guys.
guy. There's that black guy you guys
Yeah,
know and love in this movie too as well. Like, be sure to check it out.
exactly,
Like, yeah.
exactly. The token is what they called it. So now what they're doing is instead of having a token, they're adding three or four. Or they're just like they're still doing the token, but with storylines that would already exist, where they just swap the character.
Characters.
Yeah,
Yes.
like for
This is, I think,
example, what did you think about? There was a lot of backlash in the Black Stormtrooper with the Star Wars. That's kind of like a weird because
all
no
right.
stormtroopers took their hat off, and
All
that guy.
right. With the Star Wars one, that's just, I felt like this is just fucking idiotic that
Because there
people are
was
upset
people
that.
calling that a gimmick.
Because, look, I mean, I honestly don't think that was a gimmick. I think they just picked a person that they liked as a role for that they wanted. And at the same time, Star Wars is a movie about aliens of all different races. I wouldn't even call them races, just fucking aliens, all
Yeah,
shapes, sizes, and colors, and all types of weird shit. And the fact that a black guy pops up, and and out of all the weird shit that's in Star Wars, and that's what you fucking pick out to be like
yeah,
upset about. I just think like you're a fucking idiot at that point. So I don't agree with the Star Wars one at all. And the fact that even the points they try to bring up about the stormtroopers have not been cloned for like decades at this point. So
yeah.
to think that an entire galaxy of Star Wars,
Hmm.
where like I said, it's full of fucking aliens, like blue people and orange people, all this other shit,
Yeah.
that there's no people of color of like some different pigmentation
Right.
in the entire universe is like your biggest surprise. I think you have a little deeper issues there, my guy.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with people on this one.
Hell yeah. Yeah, for sure. So like
I
that's just me using it as an example of people
Yes,
looking too hard. But then
yeah,
there's other examples where it does seem a little heavy-handed, you know.
right, right.
Um
Um, so I think, I mean, if we're gonna stick to that, for the most part, diversity doesn't become such a big issue until it's about particularly, um, I would say the comic booky, nerdy demographic of
mhm.
films. Because these people feel very strongly about their characters and comics and whatnot that they grew up on for whatever reason, this and that. And one particular case comes to mind with Michael B. Jordan as
Oh, the Human
the Human
Torch.
Torch in the terrible Fantastic Four reboot.
Yeah, what the fuck?
There,
The first one
there,
was better.
yes, I can kind of, I can see a point there where I won't just say that race is like essential to their character, but they have been a certain makeup for the longest of times. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah, they've always been rendered, drawn, or acted as, and also that's a brother of the Invisible Woman. So we always
Yes.
assumed they would be the same. It's just, there's certain
Yes.
assumptions that also make you think like, well, wait, what?
So I can see why people be upset about that, and I don't. I mean, I don't feel that strongly about Fantastic Four one way or another, so I wouldn't really give a fuck. Um, but
Right.
I can see where somebody who was like a huge Fantastic Four fan or whatever might be upset that they're changing things so much.
Yeah.
But what was I gonna say?
I mean, this is like a social politics topic, kind of.
Yeah, it's a little deeper. So I mean, personally, from my end, I wouldn't have like a strong reaction to. I didn't have a strong reaction to him being. I was like, oh, well, that's it's a little weird, but okay, whatever. Like, I don't really not like a huge Fantastic Four fan.
Right.
And as two black men, it is kind of it is cool to see us finally be represented in these giant films. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh
it
yeah,
is
absolutely.
undeniably cool.
Yeah, and it be normal. Like no one's gonna look at me weird for wearing a Superman, or like
Yeah,
like wearing a costume because
because I mean, you gotta think like, here's what white people don't get. Yes, we are black, but we grew up still loving these characters and still dressing up as these characters ourselves as children.
yeah,
So we still look at that. So like, I can get it from both sides, but at the same time, like, they're like, oh, you have your own characters, but do we really? Which characters are we talking about? Sure, we had Black Panther, and that was a super obscure one to begin with. Other than that, you can probably count on one hand significant black superhero characters in any Marvel or DC or
Well, what's crazy
otherwise.
was I always thought the Green Lantern was black until Ryan Reynolds
Right.
came out with the movie, and I was like, oh well, there goes the Green Lantern costume. Like,
Well, the Green Lantern is a little more complicated
I
because
know
there's
there's
like three
many
different
Green
people.
Lanterns.
Yeah.
There's many Green Lanterns, but at the same time, I just remembered the black one.
So, I mean, my biggest point is that yes, I believe that pandering to a certain demographic just for the sake of trying to reach a broader audience or trying to get more of their eyes on what you're doing is the wrong way of going about trying to make inclusion. Inclusion just for inclusion's sake
Yeah.
isn't necessarily the best way to go about things, but diversity in films is the right way to go because
I mean, to tell an
there's something
accurate
about
story or something
yeah,
compelling that relates to what you see when you go outside in the world. If you travel in the world, you see more than one type of person. There's always different types of people. So it's like,
right.
you know,
Representation is very, very important, and I know a lot of white people have trouble with this concept, but representation is extremely important to certain people, and it does something when you see somebody like that looks like you being represented in these films and TV shows and everything. I know you don't think so because you guys are in every film and TV show and everything that's
right.
created.
And
But trust
it's
me,
not considered a gimmick when the diversity is completely flapped.
right.
Like if
So
the
it
Brady
goes
Bunch
both
came
ways.
out and it was a black family rebooted the Brady Bunch, and it was just called the Brady Bunch, and they did the same stuff, but it was just all black.
Right.
That's what happens in movies often. But
So I think it goes both ways because there's countless films that have been completely whitewashed, and you don't really feel an uproar or backlash from this. And
Yeah. Like, what was it, Gods of Egypt?
yeah, Jesus, don't give me something to tell.
Gods of Egypt. I was like, okay.
Ancient Egypt, and they're all like North English, England,
Prince of
like
Persia,
European.
Prince of Persia was Jake Gyllenhaal.
Right, Persia, Gyllenhaal.
Persia,
So my own thing is that, okay, well, you have to look at it from both ways. You can't just be like, oh, you can't take our characters and change them just for the sake of changing them. Okay, well, you can't take our region or our history or our whatever and whitewash them just for the sake of whitewashing them either.
Like you belong in this place that you'll never ever visit in your life.
Yes.
Like, you know. So
right.
Yeah. So that's one of the things. Like certain people, what people consider a gimmick is often not a gimmick, but just a specifically, targeted. It's like a niche, Like there's certain movies that are made for specific people sometimes too. Like it's not trying to reach a wide audience; it's trying to reach its audience, So, yeah. I mean, the line. But
is it in danger of becoming a gimmick? No. There's certainly moments where it's like, I might not understand the choice of changing a certain character when I feel like we can just create our own. What I would love for us to do is to create our own character and create our own. But obviously, that's not the movies that are being made. So,
live action Static Shock.
Facts. Big facts.
I want to see that. They need to do that one day.
So, yeah, like, I don't think it's in danger of becoming a gimmick, especially when you look at the majority of movies that are being made and look at the makeup of those movies. Can you really tell me that things are becoming that much more diverse? Like, really? Yeah. Really? Changing a character here and there is not in danger of becoming a gimmick. But there is a fine line between creating more diversity and representation in films and pandering to certain demographics. When it becomes pandering to a demographic and there's no real story reason or reason behind it, then I'm against that. But when it's about representation in movies, like in Star Wars, like who cares? Like
that was a genuinely regular plot line that didn't confuse any part of the story at all. Like people were just like,
oh, there's too many women in there. Oh, there's too many minorities in there. Like, well, this is fucking Star Wars. And it's a movie about a different fucking galaxy. So it's just the dumbest fucking argument I've ever heard about that one. Mm-hmm. But again, it goes both ways. So when you guys big up these TV shows like Friends, which I believe is set in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And over an entire, I don't know how many seasons it did. There's maybe one or two black people in the entirety of the show, and you're in fucking New York.
Yeah, I'm like, she works at a coffee shop.
That is clearly a fucking bullshit gimmick. So it goes both ways.
New York,
it definitely goes both ways.
You only see two black people. I'd love to know where that street is. Like
facts.
You can't even trust me. I live in New York. I've lived in New York for 5 years. There's not a block where you're not going to see a black person at least once during the day.
It don't even got to be a black person. It can be any other race. And the fact that it's so whitewashed in New York.
How many different people live here? You're going to see a Sikh walking down the street. You're probably, you're going to see...
So again, it clearly goes both ways.
You're going to see a Haitian.
Goes both ways.
A Korean. You can see everybody. Like, how, Sway? I don't get it. Friends was confusing. But whatever.
So, I mean, that's how I feel about it. I want to read some of the comments that we got on the post.
Go ahead.
A handful. I'm not going to say any names, but you can go see them for yourself. One of them is LOL. DC tried it with Wally West, and in one move pissed off an entire generation of Flash fans. So what he's talking about again, like I said, it's a certain a certain type of demographic of film and TV that really pisses people off, and it's the nerd one. And in the Flash TV show,
Yeah.
Wally is black.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was such a big deal. I didn't
know
hear a
that
lot
either.
of people.
I was like, oh, really?
You said it pissed off an entire generation of Flash fans. I haven't met too many people that watch the Flash and were even mentioned that he's black. Like, because again, Wally West,
I thought that was cool. And they say in the thing that he's not the fastest Flash. Like, Barry's still the fastest Flash, and
I mean, and Wally West is like, who are we talking about? Really, it's a fucking Wally West. It's
Wally West.
It's not the main Flash. So again, most people just will find any reason to be super pissed off about. But obviously, the Flash is still doing really well as a TV show. So I don't think the general consensus is that he pissed off an entire generation of Flash fans about it.
Yeah.
Next one, it's been a gimmick and everybody knows it. Look at the all-female Ghostbusters and other flops like it. That's another one that we didn't talk about, but Ghostbusters was a big point of contention for a lot of people, just for the simple fact that it was 4 women playing it instead of 4 men. And again,
well, that reminds me of the Oceans as well.
The Oceans, yes, but didn't that one do pretty well?
Yeah, but I mean, I saw it wasn't that good, to be honest.
Okay, so I mean, outside of Ocean's 11, I don't think the other ones were that great either. But
I mean, they were all seemingly a little bit like more clever, like trickier, than that one seemed. Seemed like the tricks weren't as tricky.
Okay, so I don't get how this one's really a gimmick, considering it's just fucking Ghostbusters and it's not like it doesn't have like 60 years of history behind it of these certain characters. Like, it was 2 movies of 4 comedians that came together to make a movie, and I think more so that it just wasn't a good movie. But to say that because it was 4 women that it automatically counts as a gimmick, I don't necessarily see it that way. But
I think for people who feel alienated because they're not the target audience, but they liked the originals that these are coming from, they feel alienated. Like, they feel like it's a gimmick because the original was for them, but this new one's not.
But why is it not for you? Just because it's women leads?
Because it's presented differently.
This is what I don't understand. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Are you not surrounded by women in your life? Like, do you not have any women in your life?
They should be championing it. They should be celebrating that there's another, version of something that you love. But instead, they just want to see the same thing. If that's what they want, they should just go watch the old shit most of the time.
True. Okay. Well, I don't get it, but I didn't get that upset about it. I love Ghostbusters. Absolutely love it. But I didn't give a fuck that it was 4 women. OF off. Oh, fuck off for, whatever. Does there need to be a story reason to represent actual demographics that exist in real life? No, these are not people, not plot devices. Fuck that white noise. No, these are people, not plot devices. Fuck that white noise. I agree. There doesn't need to be a story reason, particularly to represent actual demographics that exist in real life. But, like, as we said, in certain characters, in certain instances, there is so much history behind them that it doesn't make sense to switch who they are completely just for the sake of doing it.
Right.
But in terms of making an actual movie or film or movie or TV show that is about, like, just regular shit, then for sure there doesn't need to be a story reason to actually represent what the world looks like.
Yeah, for real. That kind of seems like obvious. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a story reason for why, diversity exists at the supermarket. Like, Like, it
Um,
that's the way it is.
Representation matters. A good story can be written whether it is a white straight man or a black transgender woman. The trans part or whatever of that character does not need to be the defining story. So, if the storyline is about a straight white couple rather than a black woman falling in love with another woman, then the story would automatically be better. Question mark. We have amazing stories about fantasy characters that do not exist. If a storyline is shit, it is because of bad writing, not because of an Asian LGBTQ plus character is involved.
I'd
I
agree
agree.
with
I
that.
agree.
Yeah. It's like, well put. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. A good
Blame it on the
story
writing.
can be written, whether, it doesn't matter. The writing
Most
is,
everything that I hate, cinema wise, TV wise, is because of bad writing.
yeah. Good writing solves a lot of issues. Well, all issues, basically.
Basically, if
Well, I
it's
won't say all because you still have some bad directing and CGI, but it solves most issues
most issues.
in movies and TV. So if there's good writing around any reason of including, then yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Calling Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which she points out in her piece because in the reboot, Buffy is gonna be played by a black woman.
Yeah.
So again, obviously there's some really strong reactions to that one. So calling Buffy less than diverse means that the author of this story didn't watch the show. There's not one, not two, but three kick-ass women of color who were slayers. Kendra appeared as the second slayer after Buffy died and came back to life. Then there was Nikki, who was the only other slayer who almost managed to kill Spike. I mean, I'm not big on the lore of Buffy, but if you guys are. Finally, there was the first whose spirit they needed to call on to help them to beat Adam. Without her, there would have been an apocalypse. There were also some amazing people of color baddies who weren't just a bad caricature of stereotypes. They were well-rounded characters with individual qualities. Finally, the show also featured the first ever televised lesbian kiss, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, I remember.
Certainly, it was one of the front runners, as I remember, of being a big hoo-ha in the press. They dealt with Willow's bisexuality in a very mature, inclusive way. Joss Whedon has always been inclusive and diverse in his properties. I'm really excited to see what it look like. I'm not big on Buffy lore or history, so I mean,
Well, I would definitely watch all the Buffys back in the day.
Sound like she gave great examples and corrections to some of her points on this one about Buffy. So
Yeah, I mean, some of the examples are conditional. I mean, you can't necessarily use examples where certain characters exist in like 4 episodes out of like 50 episodes, kind of thing. You know, some of them aren't like always there. Like Buffy's the main character, so it's always, it's about that person. So
right.
There's a little bit
but I don't think, but here's my thing with Buffy is I don't think our being white or whatever was ever any central part of her story.
Oh, no. It's just about some young girl becoming a vampire slayer, like uprooting her life. It's just about basically.
So I don't think it's not, personally, again, not a big deal to me. I don't think it should be a big deal to people considering it's not like, oh, I'm Buffy because I'm this white person. Like, no, it's just I'm Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And it just happened to be a certain actor. Right. And I don't think, and obviously the actor is not going to reprise that role again. So I just think they just found whoever they felt was the best actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, last comment. When any part of the story becomes about that person being a minority or any type of person who isn't the norm, then yes, it's a gimmick. Don't hijack other storylines to present that shit. So
I don't disagree.
I have to disagree a little bit. I would agree in terms of replacing well-known characters, but I would disagree in terms of just story. Because saying that when any part of the story becomes that person being a minority is not a gimmick. Because that is, again, representation and part of daily life as a minority is part of your story, regardless of, where you live. Like, at the end of the day, it's pointed out to you multiple times on multiple occasions that you are a minority and that is part of your story. So like you can't really tell that story of certain characters. Yeah, so you can't just completely ignore the fact that they're a minority or some other different when a story, when it's such a big part of people's lives.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, they don't say that about like plus size actors and stuff. Like they always have to talk about being plus size in their acting. You know, that's like constantly. It's written in their characters. You know, like even if the movie, you know, like weight and like just size things. You know, that's a demographic of people. That's like, you know, something that's
like. I would love for there to be stories with black people where you just don't even have to bring up the fact that they grew up differently than what's the norm. But when you're presenting something to a wide audience where there's people who aren't familiar with those experiences, you have to kind of talk about those experiences so they understand that character.
Yeah.
And again, not every story needs it, but it also, again, it comes down to, what do we say? It's good writing. So if there's good writing.
It's always good writing, y'all.
For example, Black Panther obviously had strong moments about that character being a minority from America who grew up in the ghetto.
Yeah.
And you can't tell that character or present that character in the light that they did as well as they did without bringing that up.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, it's about whether the writing is good or not just saying that you shouldn't bring it up at all. It's a gimmick if you even talk about it. Like, no, bruh, it doesn't work like this. This is when you grew up as the majority and you're not considered different, then you don't really have to explain yourself as a character and how you are and how you came up and how you came to be at this point. But when you are considered outside the norm, you kind of have to explain your experiences to the wider audience who isn't necessarily made up of other people like you. So yeah, that's my point. That's my only point.
Yeah. All y'all just need to watch This Is Us.
Still haven't seen it, but all right.
I just started watching it, and it's actually extremely well written.
So yeah, again, you guys should definitely go check out this piece by Cynthia Venny on the website. It's called Is On-Screen Diversity in Danger of Becoming a Gimmick? From my point of view, and I think Doris's too, in certain instances it can be pandering, but a gimmick, no. It all comes down to good writing at the end of the day. So, but you guys let us know your thoughts on this one. People have been letting us know their thoughts about this one. And as you can see, they've had some really, really strong opinions about it. And I didn't even say all of the other comments that we've gotten. There's some that, just don't even require a response. But you guys let us know what you think about this topic. Is on-screen diversity in danger of becoming a gimmick? And are there any movies where you think diversity in it actually, movies or TV shows where diversity in it actually harmed the story in any way? Because I can't think of any. So
yeah, I was trying to think. I couldn't